You have probably noticed the Omi token has been outperforming the market. We'll talk about why, and we will talk about the future of Omi and VeVe collectibles with NFT expert Doctor of Stuff joining us. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rain. If you like money and crypto and you're looking for a seasoned investor's take on the crypto market, join the Rainmaker family. We have a Telegram link that you can join for free below. Do note I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. I've been in crypto since 2017. Now, it will sometimes say sponsored content. This isn't specifically sponsored, but we do have a strategic partnership with Wanchain, and they give us Wanchain to give away on our live streams Friday. And we want to thank our Patreon members. We do have a private Discord that our Patreon members get access to, and we do a pre-stream on Fridays that I get to interact with them and answer questions and talk. It's a lot of fun. Now, make it rain on that like button. Strap in for the show. Let's welcome our guest, Doctor of Stuff.
Hey, Rain, how's it going?
Good. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, absolutely. I always get excited when I get an invite from you to talk about anything on your channel. It's always good to chat with you.
Yeah, the Rainmaker family has been like, oh, I really miss the Wednesdays with Doctor of Stuff is a regular thing. Can you have him back on? So thank you for, joining us. We really love your insights.
Thanks. And shout out to the Crypto Rain community. Honestly, they're great. And I'm trying to hop in the Telegram or Discord channels, right, and answer questions and chat with them. And that's something, I started my own channel. And I've only been able to put out about 4 videos. It takes a lot of work to edit and to do research, and then just life things have happened. But that's something I actually have been thinking about, is maybe just doing kind of a live stream. I don't know which night and at what time necessarily, but kind of kicking that back up and maybe only doing it for half an hour. And then as more people get interested in the content, extending that. But that was always great. Chatting with you and D Money and just talking about VeVe NFTs and the market in general.
Yeah, it's exciting times in VeVe and Omi.
Yeah,
a lot of people think of exciting times as in the price is way up, and the Omi token has come up some. It's just come up some, but I think the times are really exciting when everything's cheap, because that's when you can afford to buy not just one but maybe 2 or 3. And then it gets exciting when the prices go really high, when you already have a bunch of stuff. So it's like if you miss stage 1 of it and you only catch stage 2 when the prices go way up, and everyone's like, it's so crazy. It's a lot less fun than if you were there for stage 1 when all the prices were cheap, and then you have a bunch when the prices go up.
Yeah, 100%. And what we're seeing now, and why it's, I think, harder for some people, is they saw it go way up in December and January. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people bought the top, right? They chased those green candles, bought at the top. They've seen their portfolio just decline substantially. And so they're a lot more hesitant now to buy in at these low prices. But it's funny because as prices were coming up in December and January, and I was telling people what the value of my NFT portfolio was on VeVe, everyone was like, "Where can I buy?" And I was telling them, do not buy now. Don't buy now. But now I'm telling people, hey, if you're still interested, I think the prices are at a really good entry point. And it's funny because those same people are now like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, you were willing to buy a Todd at 11,000, but now you're not willing to buy him at 2,000. I don't understand that logic. But I'm with you. These are exciting times, and I keep motivating some of the people who are a little down because their portfolios are down. And I'm saying, look, this is an exciting time. This is where you can really stack. And look, not everything in VeVe is gonna go back up in value. We have to be cognizant of that. But there are a lot of things that I truly believe that I've been stacking that I do think have a good chance of going back up in value as VeVe in general becomes more mainstream. And I know that we're going to talk more about that, right? What's happening with VeVe and Omi in general.
Yeah. Now let's rewind time back to last year in March of 2021. what was it that got your attention the most when I talked with you about VeVe and you looked into it yourself?
So yeah, I remember you came to me and you said, and you showed me a Todd McFarlane Batman, and you said, look at this. This is the first Batman on the blockchain. And this is an NFT, and I just started to understand what NFTs were because I've been following NBA top shots, right? With LeBron James moment had sold for $250,000. That had definitely caught my attention.
Yeah.
And I started to look at that and saw the Todd McFarlane Batman, and it kind of, as I started to do more research on VeVe and understanding that this project was partnering with some of the most major IP in the world, right? At the time, they had DC, they had Ultraman, and they talked about some of these other partnerships. They had not announced Marvel, but just understanding that if LeBron James and basketball could do super well, what about all of these worldwide IPs that they were partnering with, and how well could they do over time? And so it was really kind of researching the team and understanding Alfred Kahn and his role in landing partnerships with major IPs that really made me excited about VeVe and its potential. Because let's be honest, I mean, if VeVe maybe landed DC, but that was it, how well could they do long term? I mean, I look at HRO, and they've done okay, but really, I don't know. I just don't see how far they can really go with just IP and the kind of like these pictures and cards. Whereas they were also augmented. VeVe also had augmented reality, so you could take pictures. So there was just so many things that started stacking up over time as I was researching the team that really started making me bullish on the opportunity there. And there's always a risk, right? Whenever you're investing in something, especially when it's brand new. But I checked a lot of those boxes. And so I definitely so some of those bullish boxes were the team, the IP, and the trajectory of the space, right? That NFTs were starting to become exciting and people were learning more and more about them.
Yeah, they had a massive head start because I remember their pre-sale pitches, right? When they were raising pre-sale, I think it was mid 2018, maybe early 2018. And my friend CJ was the one that brought them to me, right? And he did a video with them and with both Dan and David. And this was way in the early days. And they were talking about their Omi wallet that would be credit card size that you could keep in your wallet, was half of it. And the other half was this NFT collectibles idea. But they started way back then, right? And they were able to raise some funds back then because the market was starting to fall in 2018, but still pre-sales and, ICOs and IDOs and other things were still raising significant funds. Then they weathered through the bear market, building their app and making some good strategic relationships. So they were first able to get Batman Black and White. And their app was fairly good. Like I saw their token again. I really stopped paying attention to it, but I saw it taken off in February and then March. And I was like, holy cow. And then, right at the beginning of March, I realized, oh, they have this app out. Let me download that. And it had been out since December. And so by the time I even got it, their Eduardo Rizzo's Batmans were sold out, the ultra rare and the season 1, unfortunately. But Todd McFarlane was still on there through April, May, June, like for quite a while before it sold out. And people thought I was crazy on my crypto channel when I was talking about this Batman NFT. And why don't I keep talking about this serious stuff? And I think versus just about everything else, that has outperformed just about everything else. So even with it being, where's it at today?
The Rizzo, I think around 2.3, 2.6K.
Where's
last
the
time
Todd
I checked?
McFarlane at?
Oh, the Todd McFarlane. That's a good question. Give me a
Why
second.
don't we check it out?
Let's look at it. Yeah. Okay.
Brands, Batman Black and White, and let's see where it's at today because they were 80 gems, which is equivalent to $80 on. So they're 1,400. So what is that? That's still 80 in that. That's still like 15x, right? Which, if you sold at the top, they went to about 16,000. That's a solid 200x from the $80. So not a bad ROI, but at the time they weren't doing anything. So a lot of the audience, thought I didn't know what I was talking about with that. they just were so new. They, they're just what's the big deal? It's a Batman. I'm here for serious returns. Why are we looking at Batman stuff? Well, because we're here for returns on investment. And I'm also got a big inner nerd inside of me. So I'm like the first Batman on a blockchain. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing I think is they say talk about the serious stuff, and it's like, well, um, the Superman #1, a grade 8.0, so right nowhere near the 9 grades, sold for $5.3 million. I feel like that's pretty serious stuff, right? There's people with real money. I don't know if you saw, there was a TikTok video where the guy who owns that was showing in his vault, and it was behind this crazy vaulted door, and it was in this glass case. And it was funny because he was talking to this guy, and he's like, oh, you want your Bugatti or something. He's like, this is my Bugatti, this comic book.
Mm-hmm.
And there are serious collectors out there, right? Neymar has tattoo of Batman and Spider-Man on his back, right? These are major influencing characters. Growing up with them, the nostalgia that creates. And so I love how VeVe, early on they were called called them NFTs, which they are, but now they've kind of rebranded, and they rebranded a long time ago to digital collectibles, right? And that's really what they are, especially with this IP, is you're looking at these collectibles and they're a digital version of it. And it's funny now because you'll see in the Twitter space and in the NFT space that because Reddit basically onboarded like 200,000 people, maybe even unknowingly, that they have these wallets as they collected digital collectibles from Reddit. And everyone's like, oh yeah, digital collectibles, that's this great term that VeVe coined, and that's the thing. They continue to just be ahead of the curve, ahead of the space. And yet I know it's cliche to say, but it's true. And so even though it's cliche, like we are early, there's so many people who just don't understand this space and where it's headed. And as I look at the team, what they've done, they continue to pave new roads here. And because of that, that's what I'm bullish on. And so that's where you'll see price appreciation in general, is because they are scarce. These collectibles are scarce. There's only 7,500 Todds that will ever be available, the first Batman on the blockchain. And as people get to understand digital collectibles, they get excited about that, and they find VeVe. They're going to be going for a lot of these collectibles.
It's amazing how the scarcity, the 7,500 seems like a lot, but if something goes global, completely global, that's nothing. One province in Canada, could easily gobble up 7,500, and some provinces in Canada barely have 100 people. Just kidding. Yeah. So when it's worldwide, and especially as certain things become status symbols, then the prices of things can go crazy. Mm-hmm. Now, the question is really the long-term question as far as value and appreciation on these is, do they have enough going on that they're capturing enough market share so in a decade from now, they'll still be very relevant? Because, if they don't stay very relevant, then they won't have enough market share so that their collectibles won't be seen as the one that I got to have. Does that make sense? Do you think that they're doing enough to keep relevant and get so that they keep high market share as this goes global?
They are doing some things, which is good, right? And they are paving new paths in certain areas. But I'll give you an example of where one of their competitors, which is ironic, DC is one of their competitors, even though they have some DC IP, right? But the DC Bat Cowls, I think, is just the leader right now in demonstrating what utility you can offer through the ownership of an NFT. Right. And we talked about that. We both interviewed Matt Mason, the chief content officer for Palm NFT, because these backhouse are on the Palm blockchain. And it's incredible what they're offering. And so it's been interesting because a lot of people, as they've been collecting VeVe digital collectibles, have been wanting this utility, and it really hasn't been there in general. Right. They've started to announce, and it's interesting, they started to pre-announce. So they'll say, hey, we're going to do this drop. If you own these two as of this snapshot date, then you'll get an airdrop. So it's pre-announced utility, as opposed to, hey, you already own this, and because you own this, here's this new utility you didn't know you were going to get. And it's a way that basically I think VeVe is trying to continue to sell more NFTs. Is people will try to buy that before the snapshot, but what we're seeing is that people will buy it just to flip it. As soon as that snapshot's over, they're flipping it. They just wanted that. And so it's not really incentivizing real collectors. Whereas the back cow people, right, they're buying these back cows because they love it, like the community and what they've already gotten. Because DC did announce some utility. They didn't announce what it would be. They just said every 52 days we're going to add additional utility. And even in between those 52 days, they've continued to add additional utility that we weren't expecting. And so although VeVe is paving new paths in certain areas, they are behind other competitors. But the good news is obviously VeVe and their leadership sees that. They see what the back cows are doing. And I have to imagine that they are now discussing with their IP partners, hey, how can we add in real life utility to people who own certain collectibles? So it's still to be seen. Number one, if they actually do, I believe that they will if they're going to stay relevant. But then number two, what collectibles they are, and is it only going forward, the new collectibles that they drop, or are they going to add utility to the ones that they've already dropped? Be very interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where the future of this can go. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, for it to be relevant 15 years from now and have the prices be remarkably high, it would take some kind of integration into either their own VeVeverse or maybe make their collectibles integratable with all the major metaverses out there. And they already have the 3D files, right? These are high rendered 3D files that then if they made, say, deals with, and I don't know that Sandbox and Decentraland are really going to be the metaverse of the future. Maybe they will be. There's been a lot of money chasing into those. But whatever metaverse it is, if they make it so that then you can display your VeVe collectibles in those, I think that makes high relevance, because it seems like in the future, showrooms are going to be a big thing, right? Mm-hmm. So that in an easy link to your showroom, right? So that you can, like, from your Instagram account or whatever app is big, then you have a link to your showroom, and people can then link to it, and they can look around in your showroom and they see, oh my gosh, you have a Todd McFarlane Batman. Oh my gosh, you have a Superman. Oh, you have this. Oh, you have the first DeLorean. Oh, you got the flying one too? That's crazy. Oh my gosh, those sold out like 15 years ago and now they're untouchable. That's the type of thing where the price gets really high, because it really has to do with the flex and the status of those, because they are seemingly rare, right? 15,000. Well, how many, comic book collectors are there these days? Or how many Batman fans and Superman fans? And even, what's cool about this space is that crypto is creating a lot of collectors in collectibles too. So it's actually growing the amount of collectors out there, because there were already a lot of DC fans and Marvel fans, but crypto itself is bringing that together, that people are kind of catching the vision of these digital collectibles. What I like about the digital collectibles is you don't have to store them. If you're a teenager and you buy a bunch of these, your mom can't throw them away. That's a sore spot for both of us, because I know it happened that way.
Yeah, my mom definitely threw some of my stuff away. In fact, I have a box of comics from the early 90s that I collected that I can't find anywhere. And I think that there's a potential that maybe it's in my mom's storage unit, but if it's not, it's gone and she threw it away. But yeah, there's definitely others. But I want to touch on, so there was an AMA on Twitter Spaces. Shout out to Lori Brenner, Queen's Court. She holds this Twitter space, and she had an AMA with Al Khan. And one of the things that Al Khan talked about was social status. Why do people buy Bugattis? Why did that guy have to go in and show him that this gentleman who was videoing him, that Superman #1, right? That he owned that. It's all about social status. It's about that social flex. Human nature is we want to be accepted by our peers, and one of the ways to do that is to demonstrate that you're successful, so that you can be more liked. And so by showing off this wealth that shows, hey, I'm successful. Please accept me. Please like me. And that's where, I mean, the term Veblen goods comes in, right? Where these goods that are not necessary for our survival, they're just there because we have the wealth to buy them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I do see some of these collectibles going in the future. When you talk about right now, that guy had to go into his vault. Someone had to be present, or there had to be a videotape, right? Someone had to like for him to show that he had that. Whereas with the metaverse or this technology that's coming out, where people will be able to enter those rooms easily on their phone or on their laptop, you can do that social flex, because it's so creepy if I'm like, hey, you want to come see my comic book collection in my basement? People are like, no, that sounds sketch.
I don't
But
want to go in that vault. How do I know
yeah,
you're not going to shut the door
what
on
else?
me?
What else you got down there? What are those chains on the wall for? And whereas, yeah, honestly, anyone in the world can then see your vault and what you own digitally. And so, and that, I do think that that's the next step of kind of our social evolution, whether that's good or bad, is that people will be able to, from a chair in their basement, just watch through their computer and enter into all of these different extremely wealthy vaults, right? Or VeVe verses or metaverses or whatever they are, these rooms, and people could even charge, right, to gain access to that. It's going to cost you $10 to come in and see all of the digital collectibles I have, so they can make money off that. So, I mean, there's a lot of things, and VeVe's talked about all of this. They've been talking about this since they created it, and that's the excitement. Is that you have in David Yu, a visionary, and Alcon, both of them are visionaries, and they're saying where can it go, and so where do we need to position ourselves now so we can get there. Um, and yeah, so absolutely, for these some of these prices to really appreciate, they're going to have to stay relevant, and it's going to have to be a point where people are saying, I want these in my social metaverse vault.
Yeah, that will be what it is if it goes absolutely crazy, right? We would all like to see some of the stuff that's coming out today that you can buy. Like, I'm a big fan of the first Darth Vader on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that make sense? In fact, we can check out the price on that. I'll pull that up in a second. But how many total? You probably know how many total are there between the common, the uncommon. What? There's a rare and an ultra rare.
Ooh, man, I want to say like 8,000, somewhere around there. Um, but I know that the ultra rare, last time I checked, it was like the floor was around $890. So they dipped, right? Like they got all the way up to 3,000 and then have dipped. And I want to point out something. This is kind of a little off topic, but talking about grails. It's funny when the Vader came out and everyone saw the animation, the sounds. It's exciting. You get pumped, and everyone's like, "This is a Grail." And Darth Vader is definitely up there as probably the most famous villain of all time in the world, right? Like everyone knows Darth Vader. They know the sound.
They know the steps. Yep.
Yeah, and it's funny because people get all hyped and they start talking about this is going to the moon, and it's past this, it's going to pass Walt, it's going to pass all these other things, and now it's down to $800 or $900, and people are like, oh, and they forget about it. And now Miles Morales, secret rare, that's this Grail, and it's going to be the most expensive, priciest NFT like in the world in the future type things. It's just these outlandish claims, and it's like, let's just pull it back. So I just want to point that out, that one of my strategies, obviously I try to go for things on the drop. I went for the Miles Morales on the drop, didn't get it. I think the secret rare is incredible looking. It is so cool. Two things with Miles Morales: a lot of people in the world don't know who Miles Morales is.
Mm-hmm.
So scarcity will play a part. There's only 150 of them. So honestly, you don't need that many people to know who he is for him to do well. But when you're comparing it, and this is where I start to look at market cap and how important market cap is in determining prices and price points. When I compare the market cap of the original Spider-Man, now there's a lot more editions of that, so that can also play into it. But let's just assume that Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man ever, had the same mint size as Miles Morales. Who here thinks that Miles Morales would be more expensive? Not me. Right now, so scarcity does play a part into that. But so what I'm doing now, I didn't get the Miles Morales. I want one. But what I'm waiting for is the next major announcement that people are going to FOMO into. They're going to sell the Miles Morales that they got. Prices will dip, and those are the times that I'm typically looking to buy. So, anyways, and look at Vader now, right? If you had tried to buy when it was up at $3,000 and buying into that, well, now you're significantly down. So it's just something to keep a mindset on. Is if you don't land it on the drop, there's going to be a lot of hype around things initially, and wait for things to cool down. Which is Rain,
Don't
you talk about all the time. Buy when it's boring, when it's out of the spotlight.
don't chase the green candles and FOMO in. And even still, the secret rare Miles Morales is trading just under 8,000. This one's available just under 8,000. The guy putting it up for sale, check this out. Omi Millionaire VeVe NFT collectible. Look how many profile views though. That's crazy. But and over 1,000 followers. Clearly, it looks like he has a secret rare Marvel as well. So probably he is doing quite well with his collectibles. But he's got this one up for sale, and edition 191 for just under 8,000. Whereas you were talking about the Vader and the price coming down on that. Like if you buy when it's boring, right? Everything goes through hype cycles. When you buy something when it's in that hype cycle, you're likely to experience the pains of a massive retracement. Now, it's normal even when you buy when it's boring. You buy and then it retraces some more, and it's usually kind of depressing going through that. But that's normal and still a good pricing strategy because you never know exactly where the bottom is. And people look back on the charts and they say, if only I could have bought right here at the bottom. And that's almost impossible. It's setting up unrealistic expectations. So my general statement is buy when it's boring, and you end up doing pretty good. Like, for example, talking about buying when it's boring, this Batman right now is, this is the ultra rare that was going for 3,500.
The
And now
Vader, right?
the ultra rare Vader, and
Yeah.
now the cheapest one is edition 3506. You can buy for 950 gems. So it's under this. Now, it's not that 3,000 or 3,500 was a terrible price, but you've experienced a bunch of retracement, which sucks. This starts to be a really attractive price because from here it can do quite well. I wonder if there's a way to skip so I can look at. I tend to like this common as a better ROI because it's 1/10. It's under 1/10 the price. And as money comes in, that ultra rare ends up being a very good flex item. But a lot of times for ROI, you get higher return on investment for like the common version. Because say instead of buying one ultra rare, you can buy 10 of these commons. And then when the prices go really, really well, what's nice is you can take profits on part of them. Whereas if you only owe like one ultra rare and you don't have enough funds to buy multiples, well, then you're either in a position that you take profits and no longer have one at all, and maybe it goes higher, or you don't take profits and then it reverses. Whereas if you go like the common strategy where you buy a bunch of commons, you can then, as prices go crazy, sell some and harvest some of those gains while still having a collectible, right?
Yeah, and that's a good point because as much as we like to think that we are logical, we can be logical when these things happen unless you literally set out a plan and then actually enact that plan, which is two separate things. It can be very hard not to get your emotions involved. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you a perfect example. I was talking to friends in January about the Spider-Man Secret Rare, and I told them that it was at like the floor was like 90K, and that I landed on the drop. I only paid $400 for it, and they were saying, "You're crazy. Why don't you sell it?" And I was like, "Well, I think it's going to go higher." And I only have one, but honestly, I did. I said if I had had two, I definitely would have sold one and taken some of those gains, just because that's the thing, is I let my emotions get into that, where I was afraid if I sold it then and then it went up even higher, how much regret would I have? And I let my emotions get the better of me. And then I saw some people who did sell around that, and how much better off they were. Now, it could have happened that it went to $1 million, right? And then everyone would have been like, "Oh, that's a terrible decision." And all I can say is this: it's never a terrible decision to take profits, but it makes it easier when you go for commons or something, where you have a lot more of them, because then you can sell and still say, "Well, if it goes up even more, I'm not missing out on that additional
More.
increase." And one of the points too of why I think commons in general perform better or have a better ROI is there's not a lot of people when the prices get up to 80,000 that can buy a Spider-Man secret rare, right? So the demand diminishes significantly compared to if there's a common Spider-Man and those got up to like $900, there's still a lot of people who could buy it $900 and could buy one. And so there's a significant more demand. There's a higher supply, and then there's more demand in general, which allows for a bigger increase overall with a common type collectible than your secret rares or those lower edition mint sizes. And so I love that strategy, and I've definitely been doing that. And one thing, this is again another tangent I just want viewers to think about, because again it's trying to read the room and seeing what's going to happen in the future. And David, you has specifically talked about um, the ability to burn certain collectibles, and that by doing so, right, you might get access to very, very small edition sizes of certain collectibles that will be coming out. So, and he gave an example of maybe you're burning 60 commons, and maybe I'm getting these numbers wrong, but like 60 commons and like 15 rares or something. So I'm looking at comic books right now and that are $1 to $2, and I'm buying up a ton of those things, of the rares that are some of the rares that are only $7, and I'm buying a ton of comics and commons and rares so that I have a lot to then potentially burn to get some of those things. So, anyways, which it'll be interesting to see, because I'm going to hold on to even more of those to say if a lot of other people burn the same comic, all of a sudden the edition size on that comic becomes limited, and does that go up in value too? So.
Yeah, it goes from 30,000 editions. All of a sudden, there's 200 left before anyone realizes it, because everyone is burning that one because it was so cheap, and then all of a sudden it's very scarce. Yeah, I wanted to show this Grail piece. Some of the Grail pieces, like this is one that we talked about, the Spider-Man Miles Morales version. That this one was the one going for so high, but going back, this is that Spider-Man secret rare that went up to 95,000. I did buy two of these, essentially for that exact purpose. I did put one up for sale for 94,000, and unfortunately that was just above where the prices went, so the sale never triggered, and then the prices reversed from there, unfortunately. So that unfortunately didn't sell, or that would have been a nice profit. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get any of these on the drop. I paid 3,000 for one, essentially 1 ETH for one, and 2,700. I think I looked up the other one to see what I bought it for. So significantly below where the floor is now. But what had happened when it first came out is it pumped all the way to about 3,500. And this frequently happens. We're seeing the pump still going on somewhat for this. I don't know where the top of what this pump was. Then usually there's a retracement period if something else gets in the limelight. Like right now, what's in the limelight is what just went up for sale, these droids, right? So the C-3PO is in the limelight and is pumped all the way up. What was it, $40 to buy this? And you had choice. You would end up getting a C-3PO, an R2-D2, or one of these droids. And $40 was the price. But it was a fairly limited drop. And so the C-3PO and the R2-D2 are obviously the better ones to have gotten, and their price is pumping. And then they kind of usually fade out of the limelight as something new comes on and people are thinking about that. So Miles Morales will kind of fade from the spotlight for a while. We were talking about Miles Morales, and one of the points I want to make about Miles Morales is Though, some people have made the point that a lot of the youth, they only know Miles Morales as Spider-Man. They don't really know who Peter Parker is. And they say, so in the future, Miles Morales is going to be way more valuable. Well, there is a chance that it is way more valuable because the scarcity is much higher. But right now, nobody who knows Miles Morales is Spider-Man, like in that youth, they don't have money yet. So part of what it takes for something to increase in value is you have to have a lot of the people who want to have it have money. And that's not going to be the case for at least 10 years or 20 years. So if it does go way, way up, it's only because people in the current generation that have money realize the future impact of the future generations wanting that, and they're buying it out of speculation because they still know Peter Parker mostly as Spider-Man, right? So that's not to say it can't do well, but the reason why Star Wars collectibles tend to do so well in general is because a lot of the people who followed them in the later 70s, 80s, and 90s, well, they're 30 to 60 or 70 years old now, and a lot of them have a whole bunch of money, and that's what drives the expensive purchases, right? As well as Spider-Man, that's been around for forever. That's why the secret rare could go all the way up to $90,000, is because that generation has money. And so the Miles Morales generation doesn't have money yet. Will they? Yeah, in 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, and that's the risk, I guess, because you look at what a 9.8 Miles Morales, right? Ultimate Fallout number 4, the physical edition is going for. I think it's like 1,500 to 2 grand for the top graded comic, right? The FA of Miles Morales, and uh, the speculation is that Marvel will transition from Spider-Man to Miles Morales. Number one, I don't know why they would do that, especially if Spider-Man is still doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that we are seeing a shift, kind of in general, of bringing in new characters. We got like WandaVision and the Scarlet Witch. They're trying to put more emphasis on her. Black Panther and some of these characters that really were kind of not as popular back when we were kids, but are becoming more and more popular now. So there is that. But again, it's speculation at this point. And so for me, I'm not willing to throw that much money at something that could happen. It could be that Marvel really does focus on Miles Morales and he becomes the next Spider-Man. And it could happen that because of that, all of the people who know Miles Morales, they grow up, they get jobs, they have lots of money, and Miles Morales does really well long term. But there's a lot of ifs, and it's a lot like, will VV be here in 10 to 15 years? I think so, but they might not be, right? And so like there's that risk as well. So for now, I look at those price points, and for me, I just say I'm going to wait for things to die down. Do I want one? Yeah, I think Miles Morales is awesome. I love his character. I love the
Mm-hmm.
storyline. But the speculation is too much for me. And that's where I think it's overpriced, at least right now. Um, yeah. So, and these are the things that I think that we got to look at and push our emotions to the side and say, hey, and you know what? Sometimes I call it wrong and something goes up and I miss that. And that's all right because there's other opportunities that are going to come up. And we just got to think more like that, more like an investor as we're looking at some of these collectibles. And then also on the separate side, like I'll tell you what, that flying DeLorean, I bought it at mint. I knew it was going to go under, that it would sell for less than retail. But I'm like, you know what? I want the chance of a lower mint, which I got, and was really excited. And I got it because I wanted it, because I wanted to collect it. And that's what VeVe has done. It's made me, VeVe has definitely made me way more of a collector. And that's the exciting thing. As more and more people find out about VeVe, they're going to do the same thing. And those serious collectors and the ones with money are going to look at what were the firsts, right? It's the season one, the season two, what came out then. So those are things to think about. Collect what you love, but then also there is that potential speculation and investor side of things and saying, what do you think other people will love down the line as they get introduced to it?
Yeah, good point. Now, have you been following the Omi token price?
I have actually. I bought some more Omi last week when they talked about the fact that the OUP article was going to be coming out like really soon, and they kind of gave like a lot harder deadline. I said, okay, like this is really coming out, and I don't think that people realize there's certain people who think that it's all a scam, and VeVe's a scam, that OUP is a scam. Like, and it's funny to me because I'm saying, like, why are you even here? Like, why are you even following these channels if you see it's a scam? I guess maybe to like warn other people, I guess. But anyways, I think we're going to be blown away at the first iteration of the OUP and all that it's going to offer. And the exciting thing about it is that they're willing to tweak it even more as they get feedback to say, how can we make this even more powerful? Because look, all of the owners, the founders own the Omi token. They want the Omi token to do well also, right? Because that also helps them. But then adding the utility to that. So we're going to see staking, obviously, they've talked about in the different tiers, but what's the value behind that? What are you going to get? And I believe that there's going to be a lot of integrations into how to burn more token, right? To bring that circulating supply down, which is going to increase the price. And as that gets solidified, we already know that they've talked to a lot of other platforms, right? With like whether it is potentially like a Coinbase or like these other exchanges that they can then release the token on. But they want to have all of this integrated first and foremost, so that when the FOMO comes in, it's easier to get the token and have that use case available for it. So I am extremely excited, and we are seeing Omi starting to decline as there's kind of the rumor that the OUP is coming out and what that's going to contain, and we're seeing a price bump right now for sure.
If you had to make some guesses, what do you think some of the benefits for holding the Omi token and staking it would be for the different tiers?
So Dan talked about these silver and golden tickets. They kind of dropped that, and I think that um, if you stake in the staking tier, depending on what that is, you can earn a golden ticket, and what that golden ticket potentially does is gets you access and 100% possibility that you're going to get a drop, right? So, and they might have certain, for the golden tickets, there might be different tiers of drops, right? So like there might be this one drop that are like only if you have a golden ticket can you get a reserved spot for sure, right? And then maybe there's a lower tier where hey, if you have a silver ticket, you can get that. So staking tiers, I think that you'll get those. You'll
That would
also
be
probably get more.
for the Omi price.
Yeah, it would be. Think about that because and the rumor is that the highest tier will be $50,000 worth of Omi. There's not a lot of people out there that have 50 grand, but the kind of exciting thing is if there's enough excitement around the token and that price pumps, then someone who really didn't have 50,000 worth of Omi because of the price pump, all of a sudden that Omi becomes worth 50,000 and they can stake that. And so I think that there will be people who own a decent bag of Omi that aren't there yet, but because of the excitement and the potential utility that that offers, will get there. But to address your question some more, I do think that, I mean, there is the possibility of getting whitelisted for land, the land sale in the VeVe verse that they'll have, which would be really, really exciting. And they talk about renting collectibles. And I think that that will be another one. That's part more of the master collector program if you're at a certain tier. But again, it could be integrated to also say, well, if you stake Omi, you get this level of master collector, right? So it'll, and again, these are all hypotheses. Like I have no idea of what's going to actually happen, but those are some of the potential things there that I could see happening.
Yeah, a lot of it's kind of speculation as to what exactly will come out and how it will come out, and that's why the price is a little bit uncertain. We see it in the charts here when they had that update for the community and they talked about it is when the price went boom and it popped all the way up to here. It was all the way down at 0.12 cents, jumped up to 0.15, almost 0.16 cents, and then it retraced. I bought some more right around here, and then it took off all the way up to here now. So we're seeing, yeah, like this nice, it had this nice compression like this. We covered this on Thursday's show, and then it broke out of that, took another step up equal to the step up it did here. Now, somewhat, I don't know whether it's going to end up doing another gain like that. It really has to do with how strong the Omi Utility Program is. If it's really strong towards holding Omi, I think we'll see a lot of collectors that haven't really gotten around to buying Omi finally get some. more on your point about $50,000 worth, this, it gives the people a chance that has some vision of what the future will look like to stack up on Omi, even if they can't afford $50,000 worth, because as those things come to fruition, that's then when the price pumps. So a little example that I've used that some of the audience members that have been with me for a long time have heard is back when I did real estate investment, there was this corner being developed, and it had been a 20-acre parcel, I think. And now a Walmart was going on there, and also like a Panda Express and some other things. And I remember this guy telling me, oh my gosh, my family could have bought that 20 years ago for like $30,000, and they were willing to owner finance it on payments of like $100 a month. And I can't believe we didn't do it. And I was like, yeah, that sucks. And I was like, man, how come never get any of the good opportunities? What are you talking about? You had that opportunity, you just didn't take it. And they're like, yeah, man, I would love to make a ton of money. I was like, well, why don't we just go about, a few miles down this road to what is likely going to be a future intersection piece. And you probably pay about $30,000 for a 5-acre piece. But that likely might include some storefront. Maybe even Walmart wants to buy that to aggregate a bigger parcel. And they're like, but there's nothing there. It's like, was there anything there when you were offered to buy this 20 acres for $30,000? Well, no. Well, of course, there's nothing there. Otherwise, you're not paying the cheap price. By the time it's all there, you're no longer paying the cheap price, because now it was going for like $1 million per acre, right?
Yeah.
Well, because it's all rolled out and you don't have to have any vision. It's all right in front of you. So part of it is taking the breadcrumbs, putting the bigger picture of what's going to happen in, and buying it when it's cheap before everyone else realizes, and being patient just to wait till that time comes. I mean, if they think about it, they would have bought that, say they paid $100 a month. So every year they're paying about $1,200. Some of that going to interest would have taken them 30 years to pay it off at that. But then they would have had literally $20 million. So
yeah, it is important, and that's what's so exciting about this space. I remember people talking about Amazon when they first started selling books, and people were saying, what a stupid concept. Who's going to buy university school books? This thing is nothing. It's going to go into the ground. And they just didn't say, well, what else could they sell? And people couldn't envision a time in where, because at the time, transportation and shipping and all those things, the infrastructure really wasn't there for Amazon to be what it is today. And it was only the people who said, well, what if this happened? And took a risk and said, I'm willing to invest in this because the potential is here, and this is what I potentially see could happen. And sometimes it doesn't, right? Sometimes you're like, this could happen, and then it doesn't happen. But when you talk about putting the breadcrumbs together, there's so many massive breadcrumbs with VeVe, honestly, and Omi, the Omi token, and what's coming out. I mean, the connections that they have, the IP that they have, the leadership that they have, all of these things together, that's the dream of what you try to find in a company. And so I just remember growing up thinking of, man, I wish that I would have been old enough and had money when Apple first came out, that I could have bought Apple stock. When Microsoft first came out, and I could have bought even Amazon. I was still too young for that. And I'm looking at VeVe, and it's funny because for me, right, not financial advice, this is just what I'm doing, but I look at that and I say, this is my Amazon. This is my Apple. This is my moment here. And so I definitely have a significant portion of my portfolio in VeVe NFTs and in the Omi token because I see the vision down the road as to what VeVe could be. A time where we're using AR glasses or VR goggles, right? And they're a lot thinner, and almost everyone is using that. And there are these rooms, there's metaverses or VeVe verses or whatever it's going to be, where you can show off these collectibles, where there's gaming inside those, and the ownership of the NFT allows you access to skins to be able to flex in game that you own different assets. the ability to honestly like put price tags or people to make offers on your collectibles as they walk through your showroom, to rent collectibles out, because those collectibles give you access to in real life events like the back house have done. All of these different things that like I just look at what the future holds, and VeVe is at the forefront of a lot of that. But if David, you or Reese or any of these people are watching or happen to watch this, we would definitely love more in real life experiences for our ownership, not just from VeVe, because they're doing that with the VeVe gold and silver logo, but from those major IPs. So, and yep, hopefully they're hearing that and are having those conversations.
Yeah. Because incentives are aligned, right? What's cool about NFTs and the reason they can do something like that is the company makes money every time those change hands. And so that is the right incentives lined up, because say they add some major benefit. Say if you hold a golden statue of like the Walt golden statue, you get, lifetime access to the Disney theme parks whenever you want for one person per statue, right? Well, they would end up making more money than actually, because the price of that would go crazy. And then you'd have people that are Disney fanatics that would buy a whole bunch of them. And the prices would go so high that every time those change hands, they'd be making so much money that would actually be revenue positive to them, not revenue negative, right? Because how often do Disney fanatics really go? Maybe 3 or 4 times a year at most. And so maybe even more than that. But what would they pay for that statue? If that statue, say, went to 500,000 and they make what, 6% of the sale, so $30,000 or something on that sale. I mean, that's an extreme upfront value that they then get. And this person might only end up using it for like 5 or 6 or 7 years and then sell to somebody else, and they get another 30,000 if the price stays the same, right? So some real life utility, that's where I see this going. And that's then the value of like renting these things out as they add real life utility. And a lot of that real life utility isn't there. I mean, one of the first place to do it was like Bored Apes, when they had like special, you get access to the big event. We're having Eminem come and a Snoop Dogg come. And then the Bat Cows event at NFT NYC, that was legit, right?
Awesome.
That was such a cool experience, just for having a bat cow. You got in for free. And they had that Batman event. What was it called? Spyscapes in New York City. That was amazing.
Well, they're doing another one. They just announced a couple days ago. If you're in the London area, and I can't remember where it's at, but you get access to, they were like, you get to literally feast, because that's one of their things is like feast on all this utility, right? Well, now it's like you can wine and dine at this place in London because you have a bat cow. And look, is DC spending a lot of money? Are they negative revenue right now because of this? Absolutely, they are, right? But they're building out this ecosystem. They're building out the experience here. And I think as they do that, it's drawing a lot of attention. I mean, when they released Superman #1, there were a ton of different Twitter spaces of non-VeVe, back out people, hold like major NFT people holding spaces talking about Superman #1 and that comic. And it's gotten a lot more exposure since that happened. You've seen actually the back cows increase in price pretty dramatically. The floor was around $500, and now I think that it's around $900 to $1,000. And you can look and see that sales are continuously happening on these back cows. And there's only, so when we interviewed Matt Mason, there was a total of about 12,000 back cows, but actual owners, there was only about like 6,800 to 7,000 holders, because then the rest were for Daz 3D and then the Palm NFT team, right? Now, I haven't gone to see how many actual holders there are, but I've seen some people who have already been holders just stacking more and more of them. People who initially only had 3 and now have like 30.
Oh man.
Yeah. But I'm seeing more and more people. Just today, I saw, I think 3 different people on my Twitter feed that said, "Hey, this is my first back out. I'm super excited to be part of it." Right. So the in real life utility that I do see VeVe starting to offer is going to bring more and more people in, and especially as people become more and more familiar and digital collectibles become more mainstream, people are going to feel more comfortable with that. And I love that VeVe has that non-crypto native gateway where people who know nothing about crypto can still walk in and be like, man, that R2D2 looks phenomenal. That Miles Morales looks amazing. And I can just pay cash and I can get that. And then they don't know that really, like in the background, it's also opened up an IMX VeVe wallet for them, right? Where they could hold the Omi token if they wanted to, just because they've opened that account and things. And so the future continues to be bright, yeah, for VeVe and Omi.
What's funny is the early days, a lot of people lose vision. You saw that with Amazon, right? You were just talking about back cows. Is DC probably revenue negative on this? Almost certainly they're revenue negative still. Amazon ran negative for like its first 10 or 14 years of operations, some huge amount of time. So it's not unusual in business for businesses with a longer vision and with the funds to run negative for a while as they're building things out, especially as they're front loading a lot of the expenses to build out something. What's interesting is you were actually the one that told me about Bored Apes, and had I followed some advice there, you sent me this Bored Ape that was the highest, the coolest Bored Ape at the time, right after launch, that was on the marketplace, and somebody was asking 1 ETH for it, and it was this incredible looking Bored Ape. And you're like, the floors bounce around points one something, but this one's incredibly cool. And that Bored Ape later sold 2 days later for 1 ETH, and then the next time it sold was for $1.5 million. But and then later when Bored Ape went up some more, you're like, you should really consider getting in. And this goes to why Bored Apes possibly did so very well, is they were one of the first to give real life utility to an NFT, which is what you were trying to explain to me. You're like, hey, if you get one of these Bored Apes, you get access to like their private Discord, and there's some real players in there that you can bounce ideas off, some other good investors that are in there, which is really what the utility was once a bunch of really smart people bought in. The value initially was in that Discord. It later became valuable because you could then put it as your profile pic on Twitter, and then everyone took you super serious because you had this amazing flex piece. But before that, it was the utility of being able to get into a private Discord with all these people. So part of Bored Ape Yacht Club story was, hey, we're adding real life value, as well as secondarily, they made it so you own the intellectual property for that Bored Ape itself. And so they were one of the first to really give real life value. Now we're kind of in this crypto pullback and stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of these other projects, maybe like DC Batcal or some other ones that really nail some real life value for the NFTs when the pump comes again, if they don't do incredibly well.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about. Is I do believe that VeVe is working on more and more in real life value, and so I'm going to throw out some speculation for you a little bit on some breadcrumbs that I'm trying to piece together. So there was an announcement that came onto Twitter. I retweeted it. Didn't get a lot of views. I think I got a few likes. People didn't really read the article, but basically, T-Mobile had partnered with a subsidiary of Disney to kind of allow more access. And one of the things they talked about was like virtual reality and augmented reality experiences. So there's that. Then you have Disney that has these bands that they've come out with, and in those bands, there's potential for storage. You can scan things, and that's going to give you access to different experiences around the park. Then Disney on a cruise ship has these like augmented reality experiences or virtual reality experience together. So if I'm tying all of this together, right? If I take all of that information, which on its own seems like okay, but put that together and say, all right, is the technology coming together where I could transfer or somehow connect that Disney band to my VeVe vault and my NFTs to show that I have a Walt statue or an Elsa, right? And because I own those, because of T-Mobile and the Wi-Fi or whatever it's going to happen and Bluetooth that can then be connected to parts throughout the park, I can then connect an experience, whether it's augmented reality experiences, virtual reality experiences, that because I own that, I get access to those, right? There might be a section in Disney's park where it's virtual reality experiences and you can go in there. but only if you have the wallet do you get this special experience type thing. So I think that is one of the potential in real life utilities that we might see down the road, is something as I'm trying to connect those dots. But I do believe Disney is an experience company. And I know that they are looking at how can we make the metaverse and NFTs and integrate that into our experiences here. So I'm really bullish on what I mean. The great thing about an NFT is you can add infinite utility to that NFT. It's just all up to the IP. And we have some massive IP backing it. And as they see their competitors throwing out crazy, fun, exciting in real life experiences, I just don't think that they can look the other way as that happens if they want to continue to be a leader in the space.
I think it gives them ideas and it puts pressure on them, right, to grow it. And the truth is, they don't necessarily have to program all that stuff. If they have a good platform, it creates opportunities where some partners might come in and fund that development and build that development because they have one of the best existing platforms. And for selling, like marketing and selling, and they built an amazing community. What is incredible about Omi, and one of the things that I really like about it, and you've probably seen a bunch of coverage on Omi on Paul Barron's network and YouTube channel. And one of the things that Paul Barron built that was really smart, his background's computer science, and he built some scrapers that scrape through social media, and they track activity there as an indicator of what will do well. And the reason why I think Omi's been on his radar so much is because he can see the amount of social media activity behind VeVe and Omi, and it is absolutely incredible, right? They built this community that, yes, some people get frustrated. Some people come in thinking it's going to go to the moon tomorrow and it doesn't. And then they like sell everything and then they FUD. And that's with anything. But the amount of like truly like loyal fans that are like raving fans is incredibly high for anything in the crypto space. I can't think of another project that has as many raving fans about it. Maybe Cardano. Cardano
That's what I was thinking, Cardano.
a community too that's super strong. It's even bigger than VeVe's. But those two ecosystems really have done the best job. And there's some Chainlink Marines. They've kind of struggled a little bit as Chainlink's price has gone down for like, I don't know, 18 months now. But they have a strong community, and XRP has a community as well. But Omi is one of the projects in the whole space that has built one of the most tight-knit communities. When I think about a community, I think about how many projects in this space have YouTubers that dedicate 90% or more of their time on one specific project. And literally Cardano has that and Omi has that. And I can't think of another project in the crypto space that has that, right?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and one thing that's been interesting, which is a little bit telling, that I think that we're about to experience, and maybe it's just like a mini pump, but I'm starting to see a lot of people who flooded VeVe and was saying it was the worst and they were selling everything. Magically, they're back in the space tweeting about it and how great VeVe is, you know? And I'm like, and I even called one person out. It was funny. Like, they never left, but like, man, it was just FUD all over the place. And then the last 2 months, all of their tweets have been extremely bullish on VeVe and Omi. And so I asked him, I said, hey, I'm not trying to call you out, or like maybe it was a bit of a call out, but I just said, honest question. That's what it was. Honest question. You've been fudding VeVe for the last 6 months straight. Like, what's changed? And they were like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, I mean, I call things how it is, but I can't find it. And I went to go look on the profile and see, and they had deleted their entire history, you know, of all of the FUD that they had been posting. And I was like, wow, that's funny and that's interesting. But when you start to see people who were like, I'm never coming back, this is the worst, and they're coming back, to me, that's an indicator that you know, they're getting bullish again. They're seeing signs, and that they never left. And that's the power of VeVe, right? People can get frustrated, but they know how special VeVe is for them to then come back and be like, all right, like, I'm back on this train again, because this is, you know, as much as I take back all that I said, and I'm back in again, you know. So that's interesting to start seeing a lot of these people that left reappearing again.
Well, what's interesting about hate, right? Hate almost always comes from people that at one point loved it, right? So
Yeah.
the worst thing to have as a project is indifference. That people are like, I don't even care. I'm not even going to look at it. I'm not. Indifference is the worst. To have haters means that at some point they loved you, and at some point it can flip right back to love. Maybe you've seen this with a past girlfriend, right? In 1 second, before you're married, she totally hated you, and then like 20 minutes later, you surprised her with something, and all of a sudden that hate flipped right back to love, right? And so even the haters is a sign of a strong community, because that can flip right back to love when the Omi price takes off, or when the collectibles do well, or something goes right for them again, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's such a great point. Is only the great projects have haters, and because you need that powerful emotion of love. You can't get hate without that, right? Like you said, it's just indifference. You're like, well, like, yeah, it was here, it was cool, but now it's gone, and I don't really mind. It's the people who are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and then they feel hurt or harmed by leadership or a decision, and then that love turns to hate, but then can come right back. So yeah, excellent point.
Yeah. Well, any other thoughts you wanted to talk about on Omi or collectibles?
Well, I just in general, I think people should be aware if they are interested in the Spider-Man Miles Morales. David, you just talked about, well, two things. I'm sure most of the community knows this, but just in case people are just tuning in and haven't heard this, David, you confirmed that they have been in talks with Pokemon, the European and the Japanese offices, but they haven't struck a deal necessarily. They said that Pokemon is being very slow and considerate as to who they work with and how they roll anything out in the NFT space. But then he said, we have an IP just as popular as Pokemon that they have in the bag. And that kind of like a head tilt, like, huh. And I've been trying to speculate on what that is. I mean, I think Dragon Ball Z, like, it could be massive. I don't know if it's as popular as Pokemon. Like, I don't know what IP out there is that I could rack my brain around that says this is as popular as Pokemon. Um, but all I know is this, because I've had discussions with people as we were trying to speculate. I said, look, David Yu is a master collector. And so if there was one person to know and to say, truly compare and say, this really is as popular as Pokemon, it would be him. And the fact that he's saying that, and they talked about like anime and like when things are coming, and he said soon. So I believe that there is going to be a major announcement in December, and it could be this. It could be this new massive IP that's out there. So I'm just really excited for the future of VeVe, and that's the thing is they only deal with AAA brands now. They have so many brands coming to them and IP saying, please let us be a part of this. That they're like, well, we can't take everyone, so we're just going to take the cream of the crop now, and so all of these brands that are going to be coming out are just ones that everyone's going to know about, that they're going to be nostalgic about. Now, they might not love it, but someone else is going to be nostalgic about that, right? There's just so much power. And as they're building out into these different um, communities and areas, right? Once we have globalization where they really can, or localization where they can talk and market in separate languages to different communities, just how that's going to bring it together. So there's so much to be excited about. And for me, in my household, we are stacking VeVe and NFTs and Omi right now.
Yeah, your idea to pick up some of those rare comics was a great one. I'll probably look more at that. I did want to say this will be aired on Friday. So Friday, normally we do a live stream, and WanChain has been good to us, and we have a strategic relationship with Wan, and they give us WanChain tokens to give away for our Friday live streams. So we weren't able to work out a live stream today with for Friday with Dr. of Stuff in his schedule. So this is pre-recorded. Stay tuned the following Friday for the WanChain giveaway, where we'll give away twice as much. Thank you, Dr. Stuff. We appreciate your time and your insights. We very much value them.
Yeah, thanks, Frame. It's always so fun to talk to you. I look forward to these. Yep.
Yeah.
And hopefully talk to you later.
All right. Now, crypto market is slow right now, but good decisions made during these pullbacks lead to life-changing ones when the markets turn around, and they do. The rains will come again. And those projects that have planted their seeds well, they've nurtured those seeds, well, those projects will flourish. And those of us who have found, invested, and been patient with those projects, so our portfolios will flourish as well. This wrap is for all of you to reinforce the principles that I share that lead to life-changing gains over at least one cycle, but preferably 2 cycles.
Came into this space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling a parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing and when it's slow will be the target. Naysayers come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crafting. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.